came of thinking age in my late teens and early 20s. Ironically, rather often this was based on the early decades of the 20th century, the manifestos and rhetoric of movements like Futurism, Dadaism, Surrealism. Again, there's that young man's attraction to prose and pronouncements with a certain temperament and temperature, feverish in the case of Marinetti and crew. The third factor was a teenage love of science fiction, directly in the form of novels and stories, films and TV, but also indirectly through science fiction's interface with cutting-edge music during the post-punk era. Before there was ever a new wave in rock, there had been a new wave of science fiction, with writers like J.G. Ballard and Philip K. Dick exploring inner space and taking all kinds of formal leaps in style and structure that expanded the genre beyond its pulpy stories for boys start. That was the kind of science fiction, set more often in the near future and on Earth than in far-flung intergalactic scenarios millennia from now, that grabbed my imagination. Some of the music in this book really is science fiction music, carrying themes of the futuristic or extraterrestrial that are expressed not just through the sonics, but in the lyrical themes, the artist's image and stage performance, and the artwork of records. Other music is vanguard in its sounds and rhythms, but doesn't particularly have any truck with overtly futuristic imagery. Sometimes you'll have the paradox where the science fiction elements in the words and presentation are actually retro-futurist, already dated notions of tomorrow's world that hark back to the naive visions of the 1930s or 1950s. Thematically, Kraftwerk evoked the early 20th century with their allusions to Fritz Lang and the Autobahn. But in terms of their sonic architecture, in the 1970s they were already creating the building blocks of 80s and 90s music: electro, synth-pop, techno, trance. Although the technical aspects of electronic music figure in these essays, you won't find here a history of technology or a nitty-gritty delving into the inner workings of specific machines. The approach is actually rather like how I've grappled with guitar rock as a record reviewer. I've written hundreds of thousands of words trying to convey the overloaded textures and hallucinatory tone colours produced by guitarists, but in truth have only a hazy sense of how those sounds were extricated from the instrument. With both rock and electronica, my interest leans more to the what and the why than the how. The cultural associations carried by the sounds, the sensations and emotions they trigger, the pictures created in a listener's mind. I'm also fascinated by how new mutations in sound open up social spaces and assembled subcultural tribes around them, the ways in which the evolution of music is propelled by individual desires and collective energies. A word about Futuromania's structure. The pieces are organised chronologically in order of their subject, not when they were written. Because some of the individual profiles move across an artist's career, there is an element of temporal slippage. But the overall direction of the larger arc is heading from back then, the 1970s, towards right now. A word also about the contents. The pieces are mostly reproduced exactly as originally published, with the occasional error or infelicity fixed. In some cases, though, what appears is the director's cut version, and on a few occasions, snippets of material that usefully provide context have been spliced in from another piece by me on the same subject. The overall selection is designed to avoid overlapping with Rip It Up and Start Again and Energy Flash, while still telling an overall story that encompasses the post-punk and rave eras covered in those books, and resituates them within a larger narrative of electronic popular music. Hopefully this audiobook will work as a source of illumination, but also as advocacy, an enthused listening guide to propel the reader towards adventures and discoveries. There is a lifetime of electronic listening here. The Song from the Future. I Feel Love by Donna Summer, Giorgio Moroder and Pete Bellotti, and the Invention of Electronic Dance Music.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.